So today we're in Chelsea, New York, and I will warn you that of all the exhibits we're going to see, they're really all over the place in terms of subject matter and medium. But given the variety, I know that you're bound to find one that resonates with you in some way. So the first stop of the day is to the ground floor of Greene Naftali to see an exhibit by Walter Price. And the thing that I personally love most about Walter Price, because I can connect with it a little bit, is his backstory. Price hasn't gone through the more traditional trajectory of a successful artist in the sense that he didn't get his MFA at Yale and he hasn't been creating works for decades. He's actually only 33. But he has paintings in the permanent collections of the most prestigious museums in the world, such as the Centre Pompidou, the Whitney, the MoMA, and the list honestly goes on and on. And frankly, I got a little emotional at the Centre Pompidou in October of last year to see him as an American from Georgia, nonetheless, to be a part of this well-known European institution, one that I read about constantly when I was learning about art history growing up. So to see his piece hanging there alongside all of the greats was just very inspiring. So Price was born and raised in Macon, Georgia, and he served for 4 years in the Navy, which enabled him to go to college on the GI Bill. So he went on to receive an associate's degree from Middle Georgia College and a bachelor's degree from the Art Institute of Washington. And Price is known for creating works that live in this space between abstraction and figurativism. And he uses a variety of material to create his work. So he'll use acrylic or vinyl paint on wood panel, as well as sometimes fabric and photographs weaved into the works. And the exhibit extends into all 4 gallery spaces on the ground floor. Apparently, this is the first time that all 4 spaces have been used. And these 2 back gallery spaces have a much more dramatic feel to them in terms of the dark painted walls. And this one, they're even using a black light to really make the works pop. I will admit, the sculpture scared me so much when I rounded the corner. I thought it was a real animal, and I was not expecting that, but definitely adds a nice little bit of drama to this part of the show. We're now upstairs in Greene Naftali's second gallery space on the 8th floor of the building, and we're looking at an exhibit by Alex Isreal titled Sunset Coast Drive. And in this exhibit, he's really staying true to representing the culture and the aesthetics of his native Los Angeles. And it's not just the aesthetics where you can see his influences, it's actually in the materials that he's used as well. To create these pop art images of a breaking wave, Isreal has used neoprene, which is the same material used to create wetsuits. So by doing this, he's creating another layer of depth to his California surfer reference. One of my favorite features of this exhibit is the soundtrack that actually accompanies it, which unfortunately I can't share with you because I will probably get flagged for copyright infringement. But Isreal got the help of the Grammy Award-winning producer and songwriter Jeff Bhasker to create this really dreamy soundtrack where you can hear just subtle notes of a car passing, a breaking wave, a seagull, and it honestly really transports you into the California mindset as you're enjoying the exhibit, especially if you take a seat and you relax in one of the many director's chairs. This is my favorite thing of the entire exhibit. This is a large-scale sculpture, which is a miniature version of an idealized model of an LA street scene. So if you look closely, you can spot some famous LA hangouts like Craig's and Mr. Chow and Gagosian. But yeah, I just had so much fun. I also love how they positioned this in the gallery because you can really see the juxtaposition between the California architecture with the New York cityscape behind it. We're now going to head down to Galerie Lelong, which is just a couple doors down from Greene Naftali. And I will warn you that this exhibit is going to make your eyes a little bit sensitive. This is an exhibit by Alfredo Jaar at Lelong. And he asked the question in this exhibit, quote, "How do we make art when the world is in such a state?" And his answer to this is make art. The first installation that we're seeing here is created from red neon, and it features the words of the Stoic philosopher Seneca. "What need is there to weep over parts of life? The whole of it calls for tears." So Seneca strongly believed that if we have the essentials and a strong inner spirit, we can radically accept and endure any circumstances. And that is a powerful message. I don't know about you guys, but yeah, I feel like we all need to just really take it in this exhibit right now. In fact, I'll repeat it for you. What need is there to weep over parts of life? The whole of it calls for tears. So basically, if we have the essentials and a strong inner spirit, we can radically accept and endure circumstances. So the second installation consists of works from 72 artists that Jaar has selected. And these artists have sought to resist and change the world since the 1950s. So as I'm going through, I challenge you to see whose work you can identify. I know that I spied ones by Felix Gonzalez Torres, Jenny Holzer, Adam Pendleton, Hank Willis Thomas, and Carrie Mae Weems. The next exhibit is one that I've been looking forward to seeing for a long time. It is Nicole Eisenman's exhibit at Hauser in Wirth, which revolves around the, quote, interplay between sculpture and painting. Both of these things have been pivotal to Eisenman's practice over the years, and this is also their first major solo exhibition at Hauser in Wirth, New York, since being represented by the Galerie. All of these works are meant to tell a story, and they do this through collaborating with us, the viewer. And it's really us who are ultimately expected to fill in the blanks of what each of these works mean with our own imagination. You can keep an eye out as we go to each painting for cat references throughout the show. This is meant to represent Eisenman's 2-year-old cat, Eddie, who's clearly a starring character. The exhibit continues on the second floor of the gallery with even more sculptures than were featured on the 5th floor. And the most exciting piece of the exhibit, in my personal opinion, is the installation titled Maker's Muck. And it's meant to be a, quote, representation of the creative process and how it's evolutionary in spirit. And this is the work Maker's Muck that I was just referring to. Our next stop is going to be Gagosian Gallery to see an exhibit by Namjoon Paik, or I should say works of Namjoon Paik. If you're not familiar with him, he's a Korean-American artist that is considered to be the founder of video art, so very important. The exhibit is titled Art in Process, and it's a two-part survey of works spanning his career from 1932 all the way to 2006. So honestly, it's kind of a mini retrospective, which is very cool. And so what we're going to see here is the first part of the exhibit, and then the second part is being held at one of Gagosian's Upper East Side locations. So the exhibit starts with his early forays into multimedia, to his late paintings and video sculptures. It's important to note that he was born in Korea, but he moved to West Germany in 1956 and then New York in the 1960s. So that's why he created this work here titled Berlin Wall. He made this in 2005, and he's taken or recreated two sections of the Berlin Wall, and he's covered it with his, quote, trademark television-shaped pictographs and humanoid motifs. And he did this in order to transform the wall into a welcoming portal, one that would embody his dream of open borders and open communication. This is a really exciting stop because it's the inaugural exhibit of David Kordansky's newly opened space in New York City. I just recently brought you along to their LA gallery space, which is absolutely gorgeous, and this one is really lovely as well, although it is a little smaller, I will say. This is an exhibit by Lauren Halsey, who's known for creating these installations from found, fabricated, and handmade objects that, quote, reflect the lives of the people and places around her, addressing the crucial issues confronting people of color, queer populations, and the working class. So this exhibit is cool because it really features a wide variety of all of her signature bodies of work. So some examples of that are her funk mound sculptures, which are the white sculptures, these 12-foot tall hand-painted columns, wall-based sculptures that are created using synthetic hair, wall-based reliefs, sculptures that are constructed from stacked painted boxes that are meant to evoke the signs and the symbols of neighborhood life, and then a new type of box sculpture that channels the vivid energy of a streetscape. So you're getting to see Lauren Halsey in a nutshell in this exhibit. We're now heading to the first of two Jack Shainman Gallery locations in Chelsea, and this is an exhibit by Becky Suss that features paintings that explore the theme of memory and how it can be associated with physical spaces. So the large paintings in the exhibit, quote, depict Suss's childhood bedroom as recalled from different times in her life. And this is significant because a child's room is really the first place where a sense of self is formed. And it's a strong example of the lifelong need to have one's own space, whether that's physical space or mental space. And Suss was inspired to create these works during the pandemic when she moved back to her childhood home so that her parents could help her with her newborn baby. And she transformed her childhood bedroom into a studio, and the rest was history. Literally. We're now going to head over to Jack Shainman's second Chelsea location on 20th Street to see an exhibit by Geoffrey Chadsey. I've been a fan of his work for a long time. I know it may not be to everyone's liking, but he really does have a very signature look and feel to his works. He is known for these large-scale watercolor pencil drawings of figures. So this exhibit is titled Plus, and it features works that were inspired by various emotions that he felt during the pandemic, such as the fear of, quote, testing positive for illness, all the way to the fear of being alone and being in isolation. Chadsey provides greater insight into the exhibit's title by saying, quote, plus equals the presence of another. Plus one is the guest, the lover, the partner. Plus is pregnancy. The test revealing the presence of a virus, the virus producing a positive result, a positive attitude. Positive is a summoning force, an attraction that draws you near, outside yourself, an excess, a yes. To be plussed means to be calm, collected, unconfined. So Chadsey created these works during the pandemic when he was experiencing solitude. And in response to this, he created these portraits that loosely represent, quote, a man presenting himself, wanting to be looked at, wanting to be seen, as a performance that comes off as tragic and grotesquely funny. The final stop of the day is going to be Petzel Gallery to see an exhibit by Xie Nanxing. And Nanxing is a Chinese artist who exhibited at the 48th Venice Biennial in 1999. And he's had exhibits all over China and Europe throughout his career, but this is actually his first in NYC, so welcome. The exhibit features two bodies of work: The Dwarf's Refrain, pieces created from 2019 to 2020, and The Shadows of Painting, works created from 2020 to 2021. And the exhibit starts with works from The Dwarf's Refrain, which begins with a drawing by Nanxing's father that are usually cartoonish in nature, and then he builds up layers of thinned out oil paint to create a more abstract final painting. This pixelated work here, and some of the others that we're going to see in the next room, are part of his Shadows of Painting series. So each painting is still rooted in figurative source imagery, but he starts with an abstract grid and he then pixelates the figures. So it definitely looks like something out of a video game, whether you're into that style or not. And that's all for today. I hope you all enjoyed this little walkthrough of Chadsey, and I will see you all in my next video.